Hey guys, welcome to my World Cup 2026 predictions. In this video, I'm going to predict who I think's going to win the World Cup, who I think's the two teams going to be in the final, the best player in the tournament, the top goal scorer, the Golden Boot. What nations will overachieve, what will underachieve, the biggest flop, and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is a prediction. This is my predictions, so it doesn't mean that I'm 100% right. And if so, if I pick a nation that you're from and you disagree, that's fine. It is just a bit of fun. And at the end of the tournament, we'll look back and kind of see whether I was right, wrong, how far I was off, and etc. So if you do like this kind of video, make sure you like, comment and subscribe. But let's get into the World Cup predictions. Well, we've got a couple of categories. So we've got the World Cup winner, we've got the World Cup finals, the Golden Boot, best player, player of the tournament, breakout star, young player, flop player, overachieving nation, underachieving nation, World Cup flop, and dark horse. And there are a couple of categories that I need to explain. So, for example, best player. This is a player of the tournament and the best player obviously kind of go hand in hand. But I think this will be someone who has a great tournament, and then obviously player of the tournament is made is based on a World Cup. So the player of the best player is who I think will win it, and then the World Cup player of the tournament is someone I think the World Cup FIA FIFA would give it to. Breakout style on young players is kind of different. So this is a player that's gonna break out, show the world what he's got, and the best young player is obviously someone who's well established now, but will do amazing for his country and stuff. Biggest World Cup flop player is obviously, as we know, player who should do well but won't. And then I've got the World Cup flop. This is the nation that I think will absolutely have a disaster. And the World Cup underachiever is someone who will do well but won't go as far as they should. So it's a little bit of difference in the categories. And I can't will get into that. So World Cup winners, obviously there's a lot of nations in the World Cup. But it really comes down to four, I think. And that's France, Spain, Brazil, and then I don't think England are going to win it. Spoilers. So my other option would be Portugal. So the four, I'm not going to announce who I put just yet, but I will talk about each category, players and nations and stuff, and then I'll give my overall predictions at the end. World Cup final. So I obviously named those four. Obviously, it depends on the brackets. It depends on if a nation tops the group and comes second or third, whatever. And I can't guarantee the brackets, but the World Cup final is going to be France versus Brazil. Somehow the brackets will line, and I think France will be on one side, Brazil will be on the other, and I think they meet in the final. Obviously, anything can happen in that, but I do think the World Cup final will be won by France. Spoiler. World Cup Golden Boot. There's some big names. You've got Ronaldo, his last tournament. Messi, last tournament. You've got obviously Kylian Mbappe for France. You've got obviously Harry Kane's always up there. You've got a lot of Spain players that chip in with goals. Nico Williams, Azabal, Yamal. You've got obviously Ousmane Dembele. You've got Rafinha. You've got Vinicius Jr. There's so many players that could get the Golden Boot in this tournament. The World Cup player of the tournament is obviously going to go down to a nation that goes very far. A player that's very exciting. So again, I'm looking at the likes of Kylian Mbappe, Harry Kane, Vinicius Jr., Dembele, and I think obviously if there's a shock upset, you could look at Messi and Ronaldo. It's the last World Cup. They probably won't have as much impact as other players, But obviously, if their nation did well and they went on to win it, you could look at Messi and Ronaldo. World Cup breakout star. These are young players that I think have good opportunities to obviously shine. And there's a couple that come to mind. Jan Monde from Ivory Coast obviously had a great season in the Bundesliga last year. Has expected a big move to Liverpool this summer to replace Mo Salah. So he's not, but he still hasn't shown that in big moments. So that's why I put him under the breakup star. You got Arthur Goulart, who could have a great tournament and really break out of that mould, and obviously then go into next season as a Real Madrid starter. Yildiz, Anderson from England, obviously again kind of showing what he's got, but can he do it for big moments? Obviously Nottingham Forest is obviously in the Premier League is great, but Nottingham Forest aren't really pushing anywhere. So can he do it for England? World Cup player, young player. Obviously, you've got players like Yildiz, Goulart, O'Reilly, and stuff like that. World Cup flop player, and this is coming to someone like. You could look at Belgian players. You could put Netherlands players. Any big nation, you probably would look at their best player and go, that could be a flop player if they don't do well. World Cup underachievers. There's a couple that I want to say. So I'm looking at Mexico, USA, the host nations, Turkey, Ivory Coast, Colombia, Ecuador. There's some big contenders for this category, with teams that will get out of the group, get to the round of 32, even around the 16, and that is why I've done it. Overachievers, and then obviously stuff like that. Underachievers, again, this is more of the big nations that could either get knocked out of the group stages, or obviously could go out home very, very early. And obviously it's a bit unfortunate because obviously if you get a big nation in the round of 32, one of them has to go. But to me, I'm looking at this World Cup tournament, and my money on World Cup flops, World Cup underachievers would probably be likes of Belgium, who do disappoint very much. Argentina, I'd look at someone like even Germany. World Cup flop nation. There's only really 2 or 3 in mind for me, and then a World Cup dark horse. I'm looking at again those players that World Cup overachievers that could do something. So we're gonna reveal my results. So I've already said my World Cup winners is going to be France, and I do think the World Cup final is going to be France versus Brazil, which means basically, obviously, the further you go into the tournament, the more chance you have of winning the Golden Boot. So I've gone Mbappe. I've also gone best player is Mbappe, and I also think the World Cup player of the tournament that FIA will give is to Mbappe. So it's a bit boring. All 5 of them are going to go to France, but this is where the juicy stuff comes in. World Cup break star. I've gone Jan Monde from Ivory Coast. Kind of talked a little about him, about obviously in the Bundesliga, but this is where he needs to perform for his nation. Show that he can single-handedly get Ivory Coast out of the group, maybe into a round of 32, round the 16 game, and that obviously would then mean he's not gone on to super far. But with a nation that's not meant to do well, the spotlight would be on you, and that's why I put him as a breakout star. The World Cup young player, I was torn between O'Reilly and this man Yildiz, and I've kind of gone Yildiz because if you can see at the bottom, and I think it might not be because of the camera angle, but my World Cup dark horse is Turkey, and this is obviously a team that could go on and win the World Cup if they had a super run. I don't think Turkey will win it, but if I had to pick a nation that could do an upset, we've seen it in recent times. Obviously, in 2004, I think it was Greece who beat Portugal in the finals. Obviously, I think it was Netherlands versus Spain at one point in the 2012. Like we've seen upsets in the past. So my dark horse, that a team that would overachieve, and if they did well and had a great run throughout the group stages, top the group, then obviously got a couple of easy fixtures and was in the quarterfinal semis. It could be Turkey. So that is why I've gone young player Yildiz. World Cup flop player, I've gone for Vinicius Junior. I think Vinicius Junior is a great player. Don't get me wrong, but I think you see him and you watch him at Real Madrid. He's always throwing up his hands. He's always moaning. He's obviously. I think there's obviously a side of it where obviously there is that racial abuse that he gets from Spain fans, and that is unacceptable. But for a player that quality, that talent, he should be single-handedly driving Real Madrid, Brazil to Champions League titles, and I think taking Vinicius into this Brazil side when you've got the likes of obviously Neymar coming back for one last World Cup, Cunha, obviously you've got obviously very strong characters in that Brazil side. I think if he doesn't have a good, you've got Rafinha as well. Sorry, if other players in that Brazil side start pulling off, scoring goals, getting assists, and he's not doing well, I think you can definitely see it in his attitude, and that's why I've gone here for him as the World Cup flop. World Cup overachievers, I've gone for Norway/Colombia. This category is obviously teams that shouldn't really be getting out of the groups and making it to the round of 32 or round 16s, but will, and that's why I've gone Norway and Colombia. I think both have great fixtures in the group stages. Both should at least finish second in their groups, or even somehow top it. And then obviously if you come second, depending on what group you are, for someone like Colombia, if they were to top it, they would have better fixtures in the other side of the draw. If Norway comes second, they would obviously then also get in the same draw as Colombia. Side of the draw, I believe. So if that happens, Norway comes second and Colombia comes first, then obviously they could have both good fixtures and they could definitely go far. So that is why I put them over as underachievers. The big one, World Cup underachievers, England. I'm going to get so much hate, and I am an England supporter, and I would love them to go and win the World Cup. But I've said this for many times. I've said this in World Cup fantasies. I've said this in FC26 content on the World Cup. England, I'm just not convinced with Thomas Tuchel. I'm not a fan of him as a manager, and I'm also not a fan of him, the players that he left at home to bring to the World Cup. I just don't see the quality off the bench. If you took Palmer, Maguire, Lewis Hall, and stuff like that, and had them on the bench, you'd go, oh, they've got so much attacking. Imagine bringing on Jordan Henderson in a semi-final to change the game. He will change the game. He will give the ball away. He will not be able to run, and teams like France, Spain will target him, and we will get absolutely torn apart. And that is why I've put England as my underachievers, because I don't think they get past the quarterfinals. Now you could say with teams like Argentina, Brazil, Spain, England aren't the favourites. So is that really underachieving? Yes, they've gone to the finals of Euros. They've gone to the semi-finals of the World Cups in consecutive years. 2 Euro finals, 1 World Cup semi-final, I believe, in the last 6 years. They could easily win the World Cup, but not with the squad or with Thomas Tuchel at the helm. So that is why my underachievers are England. World Cup flop nation, I've gone Netherlands. And this is because, I think they could either get knocked out in the group, or if they do somehow top the group and do well, then they could face someone like France or Germany in a round of 32, and then they would be going home. So either way, whether they do well in the group and then get knocked out around 32, or they flop in the group itself, I think Netherlands are going home early. And then obviously can't really see it. I might have to angle the camera just a little bit. The World Cup dark horse is Turkey. That is my predictions, guys. It is a little bit of fun. Like I said, don't go in the comments and get angry that I put Netherlands to flop, England to not do well, for France to win everything. It is a little bit of fun. I'm going to look back at these predictions at the end of the tournament, and whether I got them right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's a little bit of fun. If you haven't already, make sure you go and join my World Cup Fantasy League. I will pin the link and the code in the description for you guys to join. But also, in the comments, let me know who you think will win all these categories, and let's have some fun. But for now, guys, make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and let's get ready for the World Cup tonight. Mexico versus South Africa. It's going to be good. Come on, England. Let's go.